Oh yeah.
Local Matters family. Today we are joined by another author. You know, author talk is one of my favorite segments on Local Matters because we get a chance to get exposed to new people with new ideas and they get a chance to share those thoughts with our Local Matters family. Today, our guest is Dr. Tracey Powell. She is also a resident of the great state of Georgia. How are you doing today, Tracey?
I am well. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Am great, great headed here. This countdown, just a few days left in the year. It's hard to believe. Yes. Well, thank you so much. I'm so glad that we connected. Local Matters family, with all of our social media platforms and things, sometimes it's very easy to meet people via social media. Dr. Powell reached out to me on LinkedIn and we said we were going to try to get together. And the perfect time for us to get together is for her to tell us about her new book.
Yes,
So,
yes, yes.
but before we get to that, if you could just tell us something about yourself, just let our audience know who you are, your professional and academic backgrounds, and that sort of thing.
Okay. Well, hello, and thank you again for having me. I'm Dr. Tracey Powell. I'm an executive coach. I'm the CEO of Executive Coaching, where I empower leaders to lead with compassion. Though I live in Atlanta, I'm a native of South Carolina, which is a state that I love and I'm passionate about. While in South Carolina, I went to the University of South Carolina, where I earned all of my degrees, my master's and my doctoral degree. And really, that's where I learned and got my passion from leadership. I had some great professors and some great leaders who taught me how to lead with intention. And so that's how that journey started. That is the platform for my book. And I'm so excited to be here today to talk about that.
Okay, awesome. Now, where in South Carolina are you from?
I'm from a little town named Bishopville. So it's not far from Florence, not
Uh-huh.
far from Sumter, South Carolina, but Columbia is the biggest, closest place. And it's about 45 minutes from Columbia, South Carolina.
Okay. Got it, got it. I have come up 95 many times up near Florence, so I got it. All right. And you said you went to University of South Carolina, so you're a Gamecock.
Oh, yes. I am a Gamecock for life. Yes. I went there,
Yes.
still go back, still love it. Yes. It's just embedded in you. Definitely.
I have another Gamecock scheduled for one of my January episodes, so I can't get away from you folks. Right. Are a coach, an executive coach. Tell me now, have you been doing that for a long time, or is that something like a career change? Tell us about that.
So I've been executive coaching since 2012. That's when I initially started the Institute. So I've been coaching consistently since then, still working full time, still dabbling in other things. But coaching is something I'm very passionate about, developing leaders, developing individuals. So I continue to do that because that empowers me as I am empowering others to do what they love and what they're doing as well.
Awesome, awesome. Now, I know a lot of people like to call themselves coaches. I mean, what type of training do you have to obtain in order to become an executive coach?
So my training actually started from my social work degree in undergrad. So I got a degree in macro social work, working with organizations, and that's where it really first started. But then I went on to become a certified coach. So I actually went through a training program to be a certified executive coach as well as professional coach. So, I know a lot of people use the word coaching loosely, and a lot of people, unfortunately, get certificates. They get paper, but they don't have the theories and the practice and the concepts to go with it. So I would encourage anyone that's coaching or want to be a coach, take some time, go do the coaching training, get the certifications, understand the theory behind coaching, and it really makes your business flow much easier. And you can help your clients that way.
Okay, cool beans, cool beans. I just like to inform people about that because I know sometimes people think folks just made up a title. Yeah, I'm a this, I'm a that. No, there's something they had to do to earn
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay. All right. Very good. Um, you have written a book
Yes.
most recently. Now, first, tell me, is this your first book or is this actually a second book?
So I have two books total,
Mhm.
and I have a journal. So I have my leadership book, which is my baby and the platform for my business, Practical Leadership Lessons Learned from Mickey. And that book talks about my leadership experience, what I've done well and not so well, honestly, as a leader, but really how to help people get there. My second book is The Journey to Authorship, because as a leader, one thing I promote is journaling and writing and documenting your experiences and lessons learned. There's no better way to do that than in a journal that one day maybe you can transfer that knowledge to a booklet. And so that inspired that book. And the last thing project that I did is the leadership journal. And that is a journal for leaders to really document their experiences on a daily basis. It has some affirmations in there, as well as some leadership quotes that really remind you of those who have gone through this leadership journey and the things that, and the phrases, the things, the thoughts that got them through that really helped me get through my journey as well.
So thank you so much for that. I will say, and I've been guilty as an executive and now as a business owner, somebody running a small consulting practice. You sit there and you think, gosh, I should have written that down. But at the same time, you sit there and think, do I have time to journal like that? So what do you tell people when they tell you I don't have time for that?
I tell people journaling is a part of self care. So you have to make the time to journal because think about it. We have all of these thoughts in our heads, all these ideas, and they're just there running around. But when we put them on paper, we feel better. We can go back and reflect and we can make to do lists. So you have to make it a fun and relaxing activity and don't look at it as it's like overwhelming, but more enjoyable. And it's amazing. I do it every day, all day. I journal on napkins at restaurants sometimes. It's just an opportunity for me to take care of me.
Okay, that is awesome. But the book that you've done, it actually is set up in a format to be a journal.
Yes.
And can you tell people before we even move on, I want you to tell people how to get that.
It can be purchased on my website at drtraceypowell.com, and it can be purchased on Amazon. All three of my books are on my website as well as on Amazon.com.
Okay, and I will ask you to please email me that link because I
Yes.
want to include that in the description for this episode so that our viewers can go underneath the YouTube video and click on the link to
Perfect.
get access to that material because it's a good
Yes.
thing. Is a journal? It's a paper journal as opposed to an electronic.
Yes. It is a paper book that you
Mhm.
carry around, tangible, that you can write in. And there's
Okay.
color pages as well. So you can color if you want to.
In color?
Yes.
Taking me to kindergarten.
Yes. Yes.
Now, what's the inspiration for you writing these books?
The leadership journal, I was just inspired by all of my leadership experiences, the good and the bad. And I wanted to put it really in my journal, but I took that journal and really transformed it into a book to really give leaders tips on leading. You know, the things that we don't talk about, the elephants in the room, like delegating without authority or delegating without a plan and showing up without a positive attitude, listening, but not active listening. So these were some things that always came up as I'm coaching and working with other leaders. And I thought to myself, we need to talk about this more in a more of a practical sense. And that's why it's practical leadership, because it's everyday things, everyday leadership skills that we engage in, but we don't really think about them as leadership skills. We think we're just working business as usual, but we're actually leading. And unfortunately, when we're not doing it well, we're leading in a way that does not benefit us or our staff and team members.
All right, very good. And most of the leaders that you work with, are you working with them on a one-on-one basis, or is it like the whole organization? How does that take place?
So on multiple levels. So I do individual one-on-one coaching. I also do group coaching in a mastermind format. So for example, in January, we're launching the one of our Leading with Confidence mastermind. And that's just a mastermind to really help our leaders lead with confidence. And it's really an opportunity to really get in there and really talk about leadership, but being confident with it. And it's called Finding Confidence 2025, Finding Confidence, the relaunch. So we're starting the year off with confidence. So I do that mastermind. And then I also do organizational coaching where I go into organizations, work with their leadership team, do some assessments, develop group as well as individual coaching plans to really help them get on track as well.
All right, very good. And as you talk to all of these leaders and you provide resources for leaders, can you tell me some of the more common mistakes that you see leaders making?
Yes. One of the biggest things that common mistakes that leaders, and including myself, have made is we're leading, we're listening, but we're not active listening. What do I mean by that? We're listening for you to say, yes, I can do this assignment, but we're not active listening for you to share your concerns. So when we are just listening for an outcome that we want, we're not leading, because that only benefits the leader and not the staff. Leading is a two-way conversation. It's a two-way benefit. So listening without active listening is one of the biggest things that I see people are not doing. The other thing leaders don't do is we don't always show up as leaders. Sometimes we show up, but we're not in that mode of compassion, empathy, support, inclusiveness, encouragement. We show up as a taskmaster and not as a compassionate leader. And we expect productivity. And this is why I focus so much on leading with compassion to increase productivity. Because if you're compassionate about your people, basically, if you just care about them, their well-being, how they're doing, not getting their business, but hey, how are you doing? What's going on? People feel more engaged. People feel as if they're a part of the organization, and they're more likely to do work more, produce a better product, and be more present on the job.
Okay. Okay. All right. Got it. Tell me this as you talk about those aspects of leadership, and I think they do relate to people at various levels of leadership. Do you find yourself working with mid-level managers, senior managers, executive level? Tell me where most of your clients are and also where your books are directed.
Okay. So when we look at leadership in the grand scheme of things, we're all leaders. We're leading something somewhere in our life. But when I'm focusing on leadership, I'm focusing more the mid to upper level management, because at this point, people have teams, they're managing 5 or more people within organizations, whether it's associations, the private sector, the public sector. So I focus on them because they have the greater impact of touching people's lives every day. My books, anyone can read my book. A high school student can read my book and benefit from it from a leadership perspective. But in working with them, I also use the activities in practical leadership because they have more experiences when it comes to delegation, when it comes to open communication and two-way communication, when it comes to leading with bravery and making those hard decisions and just communicating your decision and why, showing empathy. So mid to upper level managers benefit from it more. But as I said, any leader could read my material and get something out of it.
Okay. I thank you for that because I felt like that was important to inject, particularly as you talked about some of the issues that come up, the ability to effectively delegate and also just the listening skills and the empathy. You used that word empathy several times in the
Yes,
conversation. And that is considered a skill in
yes,
emotional intelligence,
yes.
is to have some empathy. Why do you think people are less empathetic than they should be? Do you have any
I
theories
think,
on how that happens? Particularly, how do folks advance to high levels in an organization and they don't seem to have that skill?
yeah, that's unfortunate. And we see it all the time. I think years ago, there was a stigma about leadership, that there has to be all of this separation from you and your team and you and your staff. So you had to be this person that was removed from them, and you could not show any emotion. You could not express anything that was going on with you. And I think that mindset built walls in the leadership community because people were believing, and some still believe, that you can only grow and thrive to upper management in isolation. But that's not true. If you're leading, people want to see the human person. People want to know that you have bad days too. Or, sometimes life is happening in your world as well. They don't need to know your business, but they need to know that you can relate to them, that you're not this form of being that's perfect and nothing happens. So I think it's a mindset. I think it comes with a lot of stigma, but I think that's a barrier that we have to break down if we want to build organizations and communities and teams that are inclusive. You can't be inclusive with these stigmas and division. You have to be open to people's thoughts, to different people's views. And you do that by getting to know them, by meeting people where they are and having those everyday conversations.
Oh. And you said that they have to show that they're human. They also have to be able to treat people like they're human too.
Yes,
It's
yes,
like a two-way street. And I think
definitely.
some of them really miss out on that,
They do.
unfortunately. Um, do you think, and this is not a question we discussed in advance, but sometimes, I've seen some writings and I wish I could remember the exact quote, but it was two things I want to put together. One was a quote that sometimes those who are making the hiring decisions for those executives, the board of directors or what have you, they mistake forcefulness for leadership skill.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
And also, the people that they choose sometimes are chosen because they've been successful at sort of manipulating the narrative. They're giving people the impression that they're very capable and they do really good kissing up, but they kick down and out.
Yes, yes.
Um, can that be prevented? Can those making the hiring decisions make better choices in terms of who they put in those more powerful leadership positions?
I think they can if they are focused on the individual versus the bottom line. And I think that's what unfortunately plays a big role when you find these executives that don't have good interpersonal skills, that don't have good soft skills in these positions because they have a record of getting results. They have a record of making sure that these organizations are thriving. But if you really want to know who they are, look at their turnover rate. Look at how their executives and leaderships keep changing. That's reflection of leadership. That shows you that people are not happy. When people accept different positions outside the organization and take a pay cut, that is an indicator that there's not a good leader at the top of that organization. So anyone, if they really wanted to sit back and evaluate, the signs are there that the wrong people are maybe sitting in those positions, but the hiring officials has to also be people that show empathy and compassion about what they're doing in this process. They have to know that they're impacting lives. It's more than just one person. You're impacting the life of everyone in that company when you put a person that's not a good fit in a leadership role.
Oh, thank you for that. One other question from the other side, I asked that question about people asking, how this person get in that management position. A lot of times, people have become increasingly cynical because they see folks in leadership roles and how did that person get there? Well, he or she doesn't really have what it requires to do that work. On the other side, I also see in my conversations with organizational leaders that they feel like the people they are attempting to oversee are increasingly difficult to lead.
Mm.
Do you see patterns of that too in your work?
I don't identify people as being difficult.
Okay.
Um, I, I, I identify them. I think anytime you take on a new position, you have to get to know your people. And if you fail to do that within the first 90 days, if you fail to have those one-on-one conversations, if you fail to engage with them, it is going to seem difficult because you're leading someone that you don't know and that have not built a relationship with. Um, I think you look at generational changes and you see things that are different, but everything starts with a conversation. If there's an employee that is not aligning with the organization's policies and goals and objectives, let's have a conversation. Let's get to understand them. People label and people isolate because everyone is not in alignment, but I'm so curious. I want to know why not. What's different? What is causing this behavior? So I wouldn't say that they're difficult and people are becoming more difficult. I would say that as leaders, they're not taking the time within that first 90 days to get to know the team members that they are leading to ensure that they're all on the same path and they're all playing the same instruments at the same time.
Mm. So the key is just getting to know your folks and therefore adjusting accordingly. Once you have that information, you
Yes.
see
Yeah.
who they are and how they may look at situations differently from the way you do. It's adjusting your approach in terms
Yes.
of managing them. Okay.
And also recognizing that maybe that person is in a role that's not a good fit for them. And it's okay to have those conversations, and then making those adjustments, as you said.
All right. This has been a great conversation. We got a couple minutes left here. Is there
Okay.
anything else you want to share with our audience today?
Well, first, thank you so much for having me. I'm compassionate about leadership and leaders. As I mentioned earlier, we are launching our first in 2025, Finding Confidence. And it is for leaders. This is an opportunity to really relaunch your confidence, who you are, where you want to go in 2025. And I encourage you all to join us. It's free. It's a free webinar. It's on Eventbrite. I can share the link, but come learn more about yourself, who you are, what you want to do in those areas in your life or in work where you're not confident. And let's talk about how to get there and how to move forward in 2025. Other than that, thank you for having me.
Okay, one more time, please give our audience your web address.
Yes, it is drtracypowell.com. All together. Dr. Tracey Powell. That is me everywhere on social media. Look for drtracypowell.com. And my website will come up. That's me on LinkedIn, drtracypowell.com. I'm actively on LinkedIn and on my website. You can also send me a message and we can chat there as well.
All right. Thank you so much. You are now a part of our Local Matters family.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. This has been amazing. I really enjoyed it.